Hey, what's up, guys? Instagram and Facebook both just went down this morning. So if you do not have this one tool active in your business, you are totally missing it as a small business owner or service provider. So you're going to want to tune into this episode. Let's cue up the music and let's get going.
Hi there. Welcome to the Goal Getter Podcast. We are so glad that you are here. I'm Lindsay, the dreamer and visionary of the business.
And I'm Jordan, the brains of the business, meaning I do all the back end stuff or anything that Lindsay doesn't like doing.
We're a husband and wife duo who took a leap of faith several years ago to embark on this permanent makeup business journey together.
We both worked unsuccessful and unfulfilling jobs before, and now we've turned our business into a thriving six-figure business.
They say you're meant to lead those who were once in your shoes, so that's what we're doing, navigating kids, homeschooling, business, and life together.
But this podcast is about more than just business and permanent makeup. It's about personal growth. We're here to help you conquer your goals, both in your business and in life.
And remember, growth begins when you get outside of your comfort zone.
Does all that sound good? Awesome. Let's dive on in. All right, guys. So if you were tuned in and you were somewhat on your phone this morning, you totally saw that Instagram and Facebook both went down for a few hours this morning. Now, if you're like me, essentially you couldn't refresh your feed, you couldn't reload anything, which means posts weren't working either. So if this is your main source to contact the people that are interested in your business, you're missing the mark. And let me explain here first. So essentially, the thing that I'm talking about that you need instead of social media to be able to contact clients is this little tool called email marketing. And now I know email marketing, a lot of younger people start to roll their eyes and think, well, sending emails, like nobody really checks their email anymore. Nobody even really, has an email on their phone. Like, I don't really check my email. It's a bunch of spam. Like, I just delete everything that comes in anyways. That's not important. Pause right there. Our business alone, I know, has had a huge impact with email marketing because I have the stats to prove it. So hang on until the last little bit of this podcast and I'll kind of explain what kind of stats we're getting, what nation average is for email marketing, and how you can implement in your business and essentially be able to contact your customers when you need to, regardless of whether Facebook or Instagram just literally gets deleted maybe tomorrow. Okay. So first off, full disclaimer here in terms of email marketing or contacting your clients, we do not spam people. There's a difference between email marketing and spamming. Now, spamming is something where you acquire maybe emails or phone numbers from a list or you purchase them without their consent. You send them sales things or information or media or different things like that. That would be spamming. Now, what I'm talking about is somebody who's willing to literally give you their phone number, maybe in exchange for something, or maybe it's an old client list that you've worked on previous clients or things like that. It may contain phone numbers, it may contain emails, different ways to contact them, sometimes even regular addresses as well. But they have given you essentially their permission for you to contact them. So full disclaimer, we only contact customers that are okay with us having their contact information and us reaching out to them with more information. Okay. But basically, the reason why it's such a big deal if you don't have email marketing is because a social media post, typically the average, the nation average, essentially if you send a post out onto Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of those platforms, they say you get around like 10 to 20% of your followers actually see that post. Now, that 10 to 20% is also just them seeing the post. That's not them actually engaging with the post either. So just because you create a post and you send it out there, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be hitting home with the person that's seeing it. So they might not even like it. They might not even engage with it, which I'm sure those numbers are even lower for your number of engagement, basically, of your percentage. So talking about 10 to 20% of those people. So that means if you have 1,000 followers, there's only about 100 to 200 people that are seeing your post. Now, if you're like me, that seems like insanely low, like really, really low for having 1,000 followers. And I know if you're like our business, you work extremely hard to essentially grow that following list, and you don't want to see people drop off. So you're constantly trying to come up with new content, and it can kind of feel like you're on this like big hamster wheel of trying to just come up with new content all the time. And especially on Instagram, Facebook, those platforms, especially TikTok too, essentially the post gets posted, and usually it's relevant for about like 24 hours, maybe if you're lucky. And then it just totally dives off, and it's like it went off a cliff and it's totally goodbye. So, with that, another way with email marketing is it's going to last a little bit longer because essentially the delivery rate is so much higher and so much more pinpointed to the people that you want to receive the message that you're wanting to send. So before we get into this, in terms of like email marketing, the stats and things like that, I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into audiences. So essentially like what kind of audiences we have when we're on our platform or we're on email marketing, and who we're trying to talk to. And then the second thing is going to be traffic. So the first one here, diving in, is audiences. So I like to boil it down to essentially like 3 different types of audiences there are. Okay. There is cold audiences, there's warm audiences, and then there's hot audiences is what I like to say. So your cold audiences is just that, like they're cold. Think of like old school sales. You're trying to cold call somebody. You're literally just calling them, and they've maybe never even heard of your business, don't even know your name, don't know anything about you. And yet you're trying to convince them and trying to sell them on your product or service and why you think it's important. A lot of times this is going to be your lowest conversion, essentially, of somebody buying your product or your sale. Okay. The next kind of audience would be a warm audience. Now, these are an audience that maybe they've heard your business a couple times. Maybe they're even a past client from a few years ago, but they know you exist. They know who you are, and they've maybe purchased from you or maybe haven't, but they've somewhat expressed like a level of interest into your business and purchasing a product or service from you. It's a little bit easier to close the sale. They're not quite as standoffish. You usually don't get hung up on the phone with them if you're talking to them or engaging them in a conversation. Okay, it's a little bit easier. Then the last one is what I like to describe as hot. So your hot audiences are going to be people that have like purchased from you within the last couple months. They're going to be people that have literally said, hey, maybe on your website, like, I want to give you my phone number. I want to give you my email. I want more information. I want more of what you're doing. When a new product or a new service hits, I want to be the first one to know. So here's my information. Contact me now. So those are the kind of people that you really, really want. And those are a lot of times very like time sensitive. So usually if those people are saying, hey, here's my contact information, you need to contact them as quick as possible. Okay. Whether that's for your new product or service, or whether that's for some kind of deal or promotion that you have going on. Those are essentially where our 3 audiences kind of fall into. Okay. Or at least my 3 audiences, the way I describe it. Everybody is kind of going to have some different ideas as far as that goes, as far as audiences, and you can hear from different people, but that's how I like to describe our audiences that we're trying to attract. Okay. The other thing then we're going to talk about is types of traffic. Okay. So when I talk traffic, think essentially like web, online, like how you're getting your customers to you or your clients to you. Okay. So there's 3 different types of traffic then as well. The first type of traffic we're going to talk about is traffic that you borrow. So just like I was saying earlier, Instagram, Facebook going down, those are actually platforms and traffic that you are borrowing. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't understand this. You are borrowing the space that you are given on Facebook and the space that you are given on Instagram and TikTok. You do not own that space. It could totally disappear and be wiped off the face of the earth tomorrow, and you would have nothing that you could say to stop it from happening. Let that sink in. That is crazy. Okay. So if you are putting all of your hope and all of your portfolio and all of your contact information in any way to get a hold of anyone to sell a product or service as a small business, and all of that is in Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it, any social media platform, you are failing as a business. Okay. So usually in those realms, okay, you have what I consider where your warm audience would fall into. Okay, a lot of times they're following you because they saw a funny reel, or they really liked an educational post that you did, or they've heard of your business and they're like, oh yeah, hey, like I'd like to see some interesting content from them. So that's where your warm audience kind of falls into, is like the traffic that you borrow. Okay, the second type of traffic that I want to talk about is traffic that you pay for. So there's a traffic that you can purchase. These would be your Google ads, your Instagram ads, Facebook ads, any kind of ad. You can even go old school and say like billboards or newspaper, print, anything that you can essentially take the attention away from where it was. So if you're scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, or a newspaper comes and you're looking at a newspaper, all of a sudden you see, oh, hey, like Michiana Microblading, they're offering eyebrows for, X amount of price. All of a sudden it's like an ad, and it's a pattern interrupt that all of a sudden they're like, it takes their attention away from what they were doing and it draws them to your business. So you're paying for that traffic. So the newspaper ad, the Instagram ad, Facebook, whatever ad it is, you're having to pay that person that owns that website, platform, or print, or anything like that. And you're essentially saying, hey, I want to take this spot because your audience is something that lines up with me. Okay. So, but in that, you're essentially diverting their attention away from what they're currently doing. And this is where I would say a lot of times, and yeah, you can target and you can do some different things with your ad electronically that's going to make it a little bit more effective. But for the most part, this is going to fall into like some cold audience is what I would say. Okay. So meaning that like if somebody's just on Instagram scrolling, all of a sudden they see your ad for permanent makeup training, more than likely, maybe they've engaged in some permanent makeup stuff, but more than likely, like it's totally cold to them. They might be looking up like food recipes at the time on Instagram, and all of a sudden they get smacked with a permanent makeup training ad. So this would be something where it's like, hey, it's not as effective, but it still can definitely be effective and can definitely draw attention. There's some other things as far as marketing and what you can do, and maybe we'll get into that into another podcast episode later as far as how to get people actually to click on your ad. But essentially, that's going to be a cold audience. You're not going to get a ton of engagement typically for what the amount you're spending, even especially when you talk about this year, 2024, it's an election year in the US. So a lot of those politicians are actually going to be pulling and using big bucks to spend on those ads. And us as small businesses, we just don't have the pockets to be able to keep up with that. So keep that in mind as we get closer to November here in the United States. And then the third type of traffic is the traffic that you really want. And this is what I'm harping on. This is the kind of traffic that you need in your business to survive year over year when Facebook goes down, when the ads are going crazy because of the politicians are jacking everything up because of an election year. Okay. It's the traffic that you own. And the traffic that you own is going to be your website. It's going to be an email list. It's going to be phone numbers that you have collected from previous clients or people that are interested. That is all traffic that you literally own. So by traffic that you own, you can control what kind of message you want out there. You can say, okay, hey, I'm doing a brow special. I'm going to send out this email to all these clients that said they were interested in brows. I'm doing, a new online course, and I'm going to send an email out or a text message out to my list for this new course that I'm launching next week. And your conversion rate for that is going to be significantly higher, I promise you, than any ad or than any post that you will come up with on social media. It is a game changer for your business. Okay. So if you are not doing this and collecting that data for you to be able to own, you need to do it now. Okay. And you might think, well, I don't have like thousands of clients. I don't have, thousands of emails that I've collected or anything like that. The biggest thing is that you just start doing it. That's the most important thing. Okay. We have, I would say, a decent email list built up. We've also kind of dabbled into text messaging and some different things like that. But we are constantly trying to just get emails collected, phone numbers collected, because the stats are just so much higher. It just makes so much more sense as a business to be able to contact those clients that way. Okay. So those are the three types of audiences, three types of traffic. Okay. They're huge. You want to recap those. If you need to rewind at this point and go back and listen for a little bit deeper, totally fine to do so. But essentially, the biggest thing of the three traffics are the traffic you own, like I said, because you can control the message that's being sent out there. Okay. Finally now, okay, let's dive into some stats. Okay. Right. Because proof is in the pudding. Totally. Okay. Essentially, when you're talking specifically email marketing, you're talking about three different stats that you want to watch as a business. Okay. You want to watch your delivery rate. You want to watch your open rate, and you want to watch your click rate. Okay. So we're going to dive into those three and what those three mean exactly. Okay. So your delivery rate is essentially the number of emails that successfully get sent to your list, right? Okay, so this percentage, it should be very high for everyone unless you've purchased maybe an email list in the past and the people are not expecting your email to come and they don't even know your business, they don't know your name, and they click unsubscribe immediately. This email, the delivery rate should be like 98%, 99%, or even 100%, like all the time. It should constantly be high. If it's dipping below those numbers, essentially it's somebody giving you a fake contact information or somebody who just wanted to get that promo that you were giving, but they didn't want to give you their real email address or their real phone number, that kind of thing. So you want your delivery rate to be extremely high. I know every time we send out to our list, it's usually like 99%. And usually it's one of those two, and it's sometimes even user error where maybe you misplaced a comma or a period or a number or something like that, or you misspelled the email. So delivery rate needs to be super high. 99% is awesome. The next thing is your open rate. Okay. Your open rate needs to be somewhat high, I would say. Okay. You want it to be typically at least somewhere, nation average is somewhere between like 17 and 28%, they say. Okay. So somewhere in there of the percentage of people that are getting it. So of that 99%, let's say, that's actually getting your email into their inbox, somewhere between 17 and 28% is average for people to open. Okay, so if you're on our email list, I actually just sent out an email that Lindsay was featured in the Tina Davies newsletter, basically for one of her posts on educating brow patterns. Okay, it literally was not a sales email. It was not anything that was flashy. It took me about 5 minutes to put together. It was super easy. Maybe that's another podcast that we can jump into on how to create email marketings that are going to be effective, but also ones that don't take you a ton of time, because it shouldn't take you a ton of time. But essentially that email, so I said the typical nation average is like 17 to 28% for open rate. That email got 65% open rate. Okay, so the key to a good open rate, one, I'll just drop a little nugget here for you. Okay, so key to a good open rate is to have a catchy subject line. Okay, you want something that's going to spark curiosity. You want something that's going to say, oh, hey, I want to click into that because I want more information, or like, oh, what do they mean by that? I'm interested in that. Okay, so that email that I just sent, if you saw it, 65% open rate. All it was doing, it was just an informational email. It was just saying, hey, Lindsay was featured in Tina Davies Pro newsletter. You should check it out. Here's the link to the post. Here's what Lindsay was talking about. That's literally all it said. I didn't sell any kind of special offer. I didn't have any kind of promo. I didn't push anything like that. Okay. Literally just like informational. Okay. So the final thing then in the stats that you want to be checking is the click rate. Okay. Click rate is huge because not only are they getting it delivered to them, not only are they opening it, but they are actually clicking or doing the CTA that you are asking them to do. So if you're new to this and like CTA, you're like, what's CTA? CTA is the call to action. Okay. So CTA would be something along the lines of, it's either your promo, your special, your offer, or it's a link to essentially like the post in my case that I sent out that just saying like, hey, you want to see the post that I'm talking about? Here, you can click here and you can go view it. But it's essentially what you're wanting the person that's receiving the email to do. So your click rate nation average is somewhere between 2 and 5%, depending on what kind of email it is. So for the informational email that I just sent out for Lindsay and being featured, it got around like, I think it was like 2.5, almost 3%, click rate, which for informational, that's pretty good. Like, I'm not trying to get a whole bunch of people out there. I'm just trying to spread the word, keep our business relevant to those people that are interested, and just say, hey, like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're up to, kind of thing. So for that percentage of people, essentially, so the 99% got it in their inbox, the 65% actually opened it and were like, oh, hey, what's this email about? And then of that 65%, essentially like 2.6, 2.7 were like, hey, yeah, I actually want to click on this and I want to see what you're actually talking about. So, okay. So those are essentially like the stats, and boiling all that down. We can definitely dive into all these things in another episode. I am totally a email marketing nerd when it comes to all this kind of stuff. I absolutely geek out on it. Absolutely love it. So if you haven't started an email list, now is the time. It's extremely important. Just like this morning with Instagram and Facebook going down, you never know when it's going to happen again, and you don't know how long it's going to be for. So if you have not totally like bulletproofed your small business in creating an email list or gathering phone numbers or those kinds of things, you need to start doing it now. Start small, okay? Be encouraged, and just start doing it. That's the biggest thing, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is all I have for today. Okay, stay tuned to another episode of the Goal Getter podcast. We tend to release these things on a weekly basis. We try to stay relevant, try to give you guys little nuggets that are going to appeal to not only just our business and permanent makeup, but just the service business or a small business in general. So stay tuned. Make sure you give us a good rating down below, because it's going to push the algorithm out to more people to see our podcast. And we'd love to hear from you. So drop a comment down below if you like this episode, and we'll talk to you next time. See you guys.